The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council glowed with a dim, sickly light as representatives from thousands of worlds gathered in emergency session. For the first time in 10,000 years, the great chamber fell completely silent. Usual hum of translators, the whispered conversations between species. Even the soft chiming of the ethereal collective's thought singers had stopped. Ambassador Kira, of the Crystalline Dominion, stood at the center podium, her transparent body, flickering with nervous energy. Behind her, a giant holographic display showed the galaxy, or what was left of it. Huge sections of space appeared completely black, as if someone had taken an eraser to the star maps. "The report is confirmed," Kira announced, her voice echoing. "In the silent chamber, the Outer Rim territories are gone. It's not destroyed, gone. 17 civilizations, their home worlds, their colonies, their entire fleets. Nothing remains, not even space dust." General Turk of the warrior caste clicked his 6 arms against his armored chest, a gesture of deep concern among his people. "How many ships did we lose in the last attack?" "All of them," came the reply from Admiral Voss, whose blue skin had turned pale with shock. "The 3rd Battle Fleet, the Psi Warriors of Nexus Prime, even the Ancient Ones' reality-bending ships, they sent everything they had against these creatures. The enemy didn't just win, they consumed everything. Ships, crews, energy, matter itself." The chamber erupted in panicked chatter. Representatives began shouting in dozens of languages, their universal translators struggling to keep up with the chaos. Some demanded immediate evacuation of their worlds. Others called for the deployment of planet-killer weapons. Few simply wept. Silence. Kira's voice cut through the noise like a blade. "Panic will not save us. We must understand what we face." Holographic display changed, showing grainy footage from a military probe. The images were disturbing, vast clouds of living darkness moving between stars, consuming light itself. Where they passed, even the background radiation of space disappeared, leaving absolute emptiness. "They call themselves the Devourers," explained Dr. Nex, the galaxy's leading xenobiologist. "But we don't think they're truly alive, as we understand. They seem to be entities of pure consumption, drawn to sources of energy and organized matter. They feed on civilizations, technology, even the atomic structure of planets." "What do they want?" asked Senator Yole, her tentacles writhing with anxiety. "Everything," Dr. Nex replied simply. "They want to consume everything that exists. Every star, every planet, every living being. They leave nothing behind but empty space." The display showed the Devourers' path of destruction. They had started. At the galaxy's edge, in the wild frontier regions where few civilizations had colonies. But their appetite was enormous, and they were moving inward toward the core worlds where billions of beings lived. "Our greatest military minds have studied their tactics," General Turk reported. "They move in coordinated swarms, like a living plague. They seem to sense high-energy signatures from incredible distances. The more advanced a civilization, the more they attract these creatures. The hegemony's battle stations were equipped with quantum weaponry," Admiral Voss added. "The ethereal collective tried to use psychic attacks to disrupt their minds. The Ancient Ones even attempted to trap them in pocket dimensions. Nothing worked. The Devourers adapted to every strategy and absorbed every weapon used against them." Old representative from the archive worlds stood slowly. "In all our recorded history, across millions of years and thousands of species, we have never encountered anything like this. These creatures represent the end of everything we know." The chamber fell silent again as the weight of their situation settled on everyone present. The galaxy's greatest powers had been swept aside like insects. Civilizations that had stood for millennia were gone without a trace. The Devourers were unstoppable, and they were coming for everyone. "There is one system they haven't touched yet," whispered Sage Mira, her ghostly form barely visible in the dim light. "A small yellow star in the outer spiral arm. The primitive world there, they call it Earth. The inhabitants are a young species that barely discovered faster-than-light travel." Several representatives laughed bitterly. "The humans? Those barbaric creatures who still use chemical rockets and fight wars with metal projectiles? What could they possibly do?" Perhaps nothing, Sage Myra admitted. But the Devourers haven't consumed their system yet. Maybe they're too insignificant to notice. Or maybe... She paused, her form flickering with uncertainty. Maybe there's something about them the Devourers don't recognize as food. You're suggesting we ask for help from primitives? General Turk's voice was filled with disbelief. I'm suggesting we ask for help from anyone who's still alive, Mira replied. Because at this rate, we'll all be dead within a solar cycle. The great chamber erupted in argument once more. Some called the idea ridiculous. Others demanded immediate action. But as they debated, the holographic display continued to show the Devourers' relentless advance toward the galaxy's heart, consuming everything in their path. Time was running out, and the darkness was winning. Captain Min floated in the command center of the Earth patrol ship Horizon, watching the routine scanner sweeps of the outer solar system. The ice chunks and debris of the Kuiper Belt drifted past in their ancient dance around the sun. It was supposed to be a quiet patrol, just another boring day checking for asteroid miners and monitoring deep space communication arrays. Then the alarm started screaming. Captain, Lieutenant Park shouted from the communications station, his face pale with shock, receiving transmissions on every frequency. Hundreds of them, they're all saying the same thing. Min kicked off from the wall and floated over to Park's station. The screens showed wave after wave of incoming messages, each one tagged with coordinates from different star systems across the galaxy. The computer was struggling to translate them all. Play one, Min ordered. The speakers crackled to life with a desperate voice speaking in heavily accented English. This is the Galactic Council to any human vessels. We are under attack by entities that consume all matter and energy. 17 civilizations have been completely destroyed. We need immediate assistance. Please respond. Min and Park stared at each other in stunned silence. The human race had only made contact with alien civilizations 5 years ago, and it had been made very clear that Earth was considered a backward, primitive world. Now these same advanced aliens were asking for help. Captain, there's more. Park said, his voice shaking. I'm getting similar messages from the Crystalline Dominion. The Warrior Caste, the Ethereal Collective, every major power in the galaxy. They're all begging us to help them fight something called the Devourers. Min studied the flood of incoming data. Each message contained tactical information, star charts, and recordings of battles. The images were terrifying. Vast clouds of living darkness, consuming entire fleets, planets simply vanishing from existence, space itself being eaten away. Get me Admiral Cho on Earth, Min ordered. Priority 1 emergency channel. Within minutes, the weathered face of Admiral Cho appeared. On the main screen. Behind him, Min could see the controlled chaos of Earth's Strategic Command Center. We're getting the same messages here, Cho said without preamble. Every deep space monitoring station, every colony ship, every research outpost, the galaxy, is screaming for help, and they're screaming at us. Admiral, what could we possibly do? Min asked. These aliens have technology that's thousands of years ahead of ours. If they can't stop these Devourers, how can we? Cho's expression was grim. That's exactly what I've been wondering. But look at this. He transmitted a data file to Min's ship. Our scientists have been analyzing the tactical reports. There's something strange about the Devourers' attack patterns. Min studied the data flowing across her screens. The Devourers seem to follow predictable paths, always moving toward the brightest energy sources. They consumed advanced civilizations first, drawn to their powerful technology like moths to flame. They're hunting by energy signature, Lieutenant Park realized. They go after the biggest, brightest targets first.
Exactly.
Co confirmed. And human technology doesn't register on their sensors the same way. Our fusion reactors, our quantum, computers. Even our FTL drives, they all work on principles that these creatures apparently don't recognize as significant energy sources. Min felt a chill run down her spine. You're saying they haven't attacked Earth because they don't see us as worth attacking? I'm saying they might not see us at all, Cho replied. Every other species in the galaxy uses zero-point energy, matter conversion, or exotic particle manipulation. We're still using controlled nuclear fusion and electromagnetic fields. To the devourers, we might be invisible." The implications were staggering. Earth's primitive technology, long scorned by the galactic community, might be the key to survival. While advanced civilizations burned brightly and attracted the devourers' attention, humanity lurked in the shadows, unnoticed and alive. "Admiral, there's something else," Park interrupted. "I've been analyzing the devourers' attack methods. They seem to absorb and redirect energy-based weapons. Plasma cannons, particle beams, even exotic matter disruptors. They just soak it all up and get stronger." Min's mind raced as she connected the dots. But what about kinetic weapons? Simple projectiles. "The aliens abandoned those technologies millennia ago," Cho explained. "They considered them inefficient and primitive. But the devourers' defensive. Systems might not be adapted to handle basic physics. Mass times velocity equals impact. You're talking about fighting these things with railguns and nuclear missiles?" Min said in disbelief. "I'm talking about fighting them with weapons they've never encountered before," Cho corrected. "Every civilization they've consumed used similar technologies. They've learned to counter energy weapons, exotic matter, even psychic attacks. But they've never faced simple kinetic projectiles traveling at relativistic speeds." The communication channel fell silent as the weight of the situation settled on everyone. The most advanced civilizations in the galaxy were begging for help from the species they'd always considered primitive. And Earth's primitive technology might be the only thing that could save them all. "What are your orders, Admiral?" Min asked. Cho's expression hardened with determination. "We're going to do something that's never been done before. We're going to teach the galaxy how to fight dirty." 3 days after receiving the desperate calls from across the galaxy, a small human ship appeared at the edge of the Zarian Prime system. The vessel looked crude compared to the elegant alien craft gathered there. All sharp angles and visible metal plating instead of the smooth, flowing designs preferred by advanced civilizations. Admiral Su stood on the bridge of the Earth ship, defiance looking at the massive holographic display showing the gathered refugee fleets. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species floated in formation, their crews having fled from worlds that no longer existed. These were the survivors, the lucky ones who had escaped before the devourers arrived. "Open a channel to all ships," Su ordered. The communications officer nodded and activated the broadcast system. "This is Admiral Su of the United Earth Defense Force," she announced in carefully practiced galactic standard. "We have studied your situation and believe we can help. But we will need every ship, every resource, and every survivor you can provide. We are transmitting coordinates for a rendezvous point." The alien commanders appeared on screen as shimmering holograms, their forms flickering with uncertainty. Ambassador Kira of the Crystalline Dominion was the first to speak. "Admiral Su, we are grateful for any assistance, but the coordinates you have sent lead to the Makar system. The Devourers consumed it 2 weeks ago. There is nothing there but empty space." Su smiled grimly. "That is exactly why we chose it. The Devourers have already fed there, so they will not expect to find anything worth consuming. It is the perfect place to prepare our trap." The alien fleets followed the human ship through hyperspace, arriving at a system that should have been dead and empty. Instead, they found something impossible. A massive structure floating in the void where the star system's planets used to be. The construction was enormous, stretching across millions of kilometers of space, crackling with energy patterns the aliens had never seen before. "What is that thing?" General Turk demanded, his 6 arms gesturing at the massive array. "Bait," Su replied simply. "The Devourers hunt by following energy signatures. We have built the biggest energy signature in the galaxy." Dr. Kim, Earth's leading physicist, appeared on the communication screen to explain. "The structure contains 300 fusion reactors, each one broadcasting on frequencies that should appear irresistible to the Devourers. To them, it will look like the most advanced civilization they have ever encountered. But it is a trap," Admiral Voss said, her blue skin pale with fear. "When they come to feed, they will consume everything." "No," Su said firmly. "They will try to consume everything?" But hidden within the fusion reactors are weapon systems based on principles your civilizations abandoned long ago. We have railguns that can fire projectiles at 30% of light speed. We have nuclear warheads that can crack moons. And we have electromagnetic pulse generators that operate on frequencies so primitive that the Devourer's absorption systems cannot process them. The alien commanders exchanged glances of disbelief. Ambassador Kira's crystalline form flickered with what might have been hope or horror. "You built weapons to fight these creatures using your primitive technology?" she asked. "We built weapons to fight each other," Sue admitted. "For thousands of years, humans have been perfecting the art of killing other humans. We developed these weapons when we thought the biggest threat we faced was ourselves. It turns out that sometimes the most basic solution is the right one." Dr. Kim activated a holographic display showing the weapon systems hidden throughout the massive array. Every other civilization in the galaxy uses energy-based weapons that the Devourers can absorb and redirect. But our weapons work on simple physics. A chunk of metal moving at relativistic speeds does not care about exotic matter fields or quantum absorption matrices. It just hits whatever gets in its way. "The electromagnetic pulse generators are our real secret weapon," added Commander Lee, Earth's top military engineer. "The Devourers have evolved to handle every form of advanced energy manipulation, but they have never encountered electromagnetic fields generated by simple copper coils and basic electrical circuits. To them, it will be like being attacked by something that should not exist." The alien survivors spent hours studying the human battle plans, their advanced minds struggling to understand technology that seemed impossibly primitive. The humans were proposing to fight the most dangerous enemy in galactic history using weapons that belonged in a museum. "This is madness," muttered Senator Yole, her tentacles writhing with anxiety. "You are asking us to trust our lives to crude metal projectiles and chemical explosives. We are asking you to trust us to do what we do best," Sue replied. "Humans have been fighting hopeless battles for our entire history. We have learned that sometimes the enemy's greatest strength can become their greatest weakness. The Devourers are perfectly adapted to fight advanced civilizations. They have never fought primitives." The alien fleets took their positions around the massive array, their crews watching in fascination and terror as human technicians made final preparations.
The trap was set,
Broadcasting its irresistible energy signature into the void. Now all they had to do was wait for the Devourers to take the bait. The Devourers came like a tide of living darkness, pouring out of the empty space between stars. The alien refugee fleets watched in horror as the creatures approached, their very presence causing the light around them to dim and fade. Space itself seemed to bend and twist as the massive swarm moved toward the human trap. Captain Hind stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the tactical display as thousands of dark shapes converged on their position. Each Devourer was the size of a small moon, and there were so many of them that they blocked out the light from distant stars. "All human vessels, this is Admiral Sue." The communication crackled across the fleet. "Remember, we are not here to win a pretty battle. We are here to teach these things that humans do not give up easily." The first wave of Devourers reached the outer edge of the massive fusion array. The creatures moved with purpose, drawn by the enormous energy signature like hungry predators sensing prey. They began to feed immediately, their dark forms wrapping around the fusion reactors and absorbing the energy pouring out of them. "They are taking the bait," reported Lieutenant Park from the sensor station. "Energy absorption is at maximum levels. They think they have found the greatest feast in the galaxy." On the alien command ships, the survivors watched in amazement as the Devourers fed. These were the same creatures that had consumed entire civilizations, yet they seemed completely focused on the human trap, ignoring the refugee fleets floating nearby. "Impossible," breathed General Turk. "They are not even looking at us. How can they not sense our ships?" "Because we are hiding behind primitive technology," Admiral Voss realized. "Our ships are powered by zero-point energy and exotic matter, but the human ships use simple fusion reactors and electromagnetic fields. To the Devourers, we must look like empty space." The Devourers continued to feed, their numbers growing as more creatures arrived from the darkness, around the fusion reactors, absorbing energy at an incredible rate. But as they fed, something unexpected happened. The energy signature from the array began to change.
Oh.
Admiral Sue whispered into her communicator. The first salvo of human weapons fired simultaneously from hidden positions throughout the array. But instead of energy beams or exotic particles, the humans launched simple metal projectiles, chunks of dense alloy accelerated to 30% of light speed by massive railguns. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Devourers, evolved to absorb and redirect energy attacks, had no defense against pure kinetic impact. The metal projectiles tore through their dark forms like bullets through paper, causing them to writhe and shriek in frequencies that made the alien crews cover their ears. "They are hurting them," General Turk said in disbelief. "The primitives are actually hurting them." But the real surprise came when the Devourers tried to adapt. These creatures had survived by learning to counter every weapon used against them. They began to shift their forms, creating defensive barriers and energy fields to block the incoming projectiles. That was when the humans activated their secret weapon, deep within the fusion array, hidden among the reactors. Massive, electromagnetic pulse generators came online. These were not the sophisticated energy weapons the galaxy was used to. They were simple copper coils and basic electrical circuits, generating electromagnetic fields using principles that were thousands of years old. The pulse tore through the Devourer swarm like lightning, disrupting whatever force held the creatures together. The electromagnetic fields were so primitive, so basic, that the Devourer's advanced absorption systems could not process them. It was like trying to catch smoke with a net designed for solid objects. The creatures began to break apart, their dark forms dissolving into wisps of shadow. Some tried to flee, but the humans had prepared for that too. Nuclear warheads, simple fusion bombs that the galaxy had abandoned millennia ago, detonated throughout the swarm. The explosions were crude and inefficient compared to antimatter weapons, but they worked. For the first time in recorded history, the Devourers retreated. Not destroyed, many of them managed to escape back into the darkness between stars, but wounded and confused. They had encountered something they could not understand, could not adapt to, could not consume. The alien refugee fleets erupted in cheers. Beings who had thought they would never see their homes again began to weep with joy. The impossible had happened. The Devourers had been defeated. "How?" Ambassador Kira asked, her crystalline form flickering with amazement. "How did you know this would work?" Admiral Sue smiled tiredly. "Because we know how to fight dirty. Every other civilization in the galaxy fights the same way, with clean energy weapons and sophisticated technology. But humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We learned long ago that sometimes the best weapon is the one your enemy does not expect." Dr. Kim appeared on the communication screen, his face glowing with excitement. "The Devourers are adapted to counter advanced technology, but they have never encountered truly primitive weapons. Our railguns use simple physics. Our nuclear weapons use basic fusion. Our electromagnetic pulses use copper wire and electrical current. To them, we might as well be fighting with sticks and stones." The darkness that had consumed 17 civilizations was retreating, and for the first time in months, hope flickered. In the hearts of the survivors, the galaxy was learning that sometimes the most primitive solution was the right one. 6 months after the Battle of the Void, the galaxy looked very different. The Devourers still lurked in the dark spaces between stars, but their unstoppable advance had been halted. For the first time since the invasion began, civilizations were rebuilding instead of just running away. Captain Yoon stood on the observation deck of the newly built Terran embassy on Zarian Prime, watching construction crews work on the massive defense platforms orbiting the planet. But these were not the elegant energy-based weapons the galaxy had always used. These new platforms bristled with crude railguns and primitive missile launchers, human technology that had saved them all. The council vote was unanimous, Ambassador Kira reported, her crystalline form reflecting the light of the construction work. Humanity has been granted full membership in the Galactic Council and a permanent seat on the Strategic Defense Committee. Every major civilization wants to learn from your military tactics. Hyun smiled as she watched human engineers working alongside alien technicians. The humans were teaching them how to build weapons that looked ancient by galactic standards, but could hurt the Devourers in ways that advanced technology could not. "We received a message from Earth this morning," Haon said. "The planet is busier than it has ever been. Every university is starting new programs to study alien biology and technology. Every corporation wants to design the next generation of primitive weapons that can protect the galaxy." The irony was not lost on anyone. For years, the galactic community had looked down on human technology as backward and inefficient. Now, every major civilization was desperately trying to learn how to build simple railguns and basic fusion reactors. Dr. Dud Kim appeared on the communication screen from his new laboratory on Luna. "The research is going better than we hoped," he reported. "We have learned that the Devourers can adapt to any form of energy manipulation, but they cannot process purely mechanical systems. A simple lever or pulley is invisible to them because it does not generate any energy signature they can detect." "What about the new defensive systems?" Haon asked. "We are building them throughout the galaxy," Kim explained. "Simple electromagnetic field generators, basic kinetic weapons, even chemical explosives. Aliens are learning that sometimes the most effective solution is the one that looks least impressive." The transformation was remarkable. The crystalline Dominion had begun manufacturing crude metal projectiles alongside their elegant energy weapons. The warrior caste was training their soldiers to use primitive firearms instead of plasma rifles. Even the ethereal collective was learning to build simple radio transmitters that could jam the Devourers' communication systems. "The Devourers have tried to attack 3 more times," General Turk reported from the military command center. "Each time, they encountered our new defensive systems and retreated. They cannot adapt to weapons that use no advanced technology." Lieutenant Park, now promoted to commander, brought up the latest intelligence reports. "Our scouts have found something interesting. Devourers are avoiding systems that show any signs of primitive technology. They seem to have learned that simple weapons can hurt them. This was the real victory. The Devourers had been forced to change their behavior for the first time in their existence. Instead of consuming everything in their path, they were now selective, avoiding any system that might contain the crude weapons that had wounded them so badly. "We have a message from the Archive Worlds," Commander Park announced. "They want to establish a new branch of their great library dedicated to studying primitive technology. They're calling it the Museum of Effective Simplicity." Hoon laughed. 6 months ago, they would have called it the Museum of Barbaric Weapons. The cultural shift was just as dramatic as the military one. Species that had spent millennia perfecting elegant, sophisticated technology were now celebrating the beauty of simple solutions. Art galleries displayed primitive human tools alongside the most advanced alien creations. Scientists wrote papers about the philosophical implications of fighting complexity with simplicity. "There is something else," Ambassador Kira said, her form flickering with excitement. "The Council has approved a new initiative. We are going to search for other species that might have primitive technology we can learn from. Your humans have taught us that advancement is not always about complexity. The galaxy was discovering that evolution did not always mean moving toward greater sophistication. Sometimes the most effective solution was the simplest one. The Devourers had been defeated not by the most advanced weapons in the galaxy, but by the most basic ones. "We received a communication from the Frontier Worlds," Park reported. "Several primitive civilizations want to join the Defense Alliance. They have been building their own simple weapons and want to contribute to the fight." Haon nodded, watching as another human transport ship arrived at the embassy. It was filled with engineers and scientists who would spread throughout the galaxy, teaching other species how to build the primitive weapons that had saved them all. "The Devourers made one mistake," she said quietly. "They assumed that advanced meant better. They learned to counter every sophisticated weapon in the galaxy, but they never expected to face something as simple as a metal projectile fired by electromagnetic coils." Outside the embassy, the void that had once seemed so threatening now sparkled with the lights of 1,000 ships. Human vessels worked alongside alien craft, all of them equipped with the crude primitive weapons that had driven back the darkness. The galaxy had learned that sometimes the best way to fight the future was with the past.